Hi, I'm Chris Pinto. I'm chairman of Massachusetts Gun Rights. I recorded a gun control rally yesterday for you to see, but I'd like to address you for just a moment first. When I was at this rally, it was led by Katherine Clark and Maura Healey, but it also had the usual suspects, the usual villains of the gun control rallies. Joe Kennedy, Speaker DeLeo, David Linsky, and of course John Rosenthal from Stop Handgun Violence was there. And we all know his billboard along the Mass Pike that claimed that we had a gun show loophole in Massachusetts, which we don't, but that doesn't matter for the gun control radicals. They'll tell any lies they can to achieve their goals. And I wanted you, our members, to see the lies the liberal gun grabbers spew and the support that they have to trample on the Second Amendment. Only with a no-compromise gun group that focuses on punishing bad political behavior can we push back on these gun grabbers. They certainly don't listen to reason. They don't care about facts. And they listen to reason just about as much as criminals follow laws like gun laws. But please consider signing up for a MAGA yearly membership. Currently, everyone associated with MAGA is a volunteer, and the funds are needed for mail, push cards, websites, press releases, etc. And check out these cool MAGA bumper stickers that just arrived. Until the end of the year, we are sending 2 bumper stickers to every member. So I hope you'll consider signing up for a membership. And in just a moment, if you stay around, you'll get to watch the gun control crazies tell all their lies. Have a great day.
Violence, and that's Mr. John Rosenthal, by the way. But upon the passage of the bill, it was hailed as a national model. Unfortunately, 2 years later, it remains a model, which national Republicans have all too often have unfortunately just ignored. That's why we believe that there should be no more moments of silence on Capitol Hill without action. And I understand that making meaningful changes to our gun laws is a very difficult task. Our gun bill is probably one of the toughest bills that I've ever been involved with here on the Hill. You should have seen some of the wonderful emails that I received, not only from Massachusetts residents, but throughout the entire country. And I never realized some greeting cards that were sold. I think they sent them all to me, and there's probably none that are left. There were times that we were nowhere, and I really questioned whether we could find a workable solution. But you know, we worked tirelessly until we forged a consensus, won bipartisan support, and constructed a law that will stand the test of time. I also want to thank some of the gun owners here from Massachusetts, because we had them join with us as well. And we realized very quickly that they had the same objectives, many of them, as did we. And that was to make sure that we kept guns out of the hands of the so-called bad guys. So I sincerely want to thank some of our local members, unlike the folks in the NRA, who supported us. But states can't do things alone. We need the federal government. Without federal support supporting these measures on a national scale, it's simply not enough. The stakes are too high. Now, with loved ones lost and the LGBT community having suffered an unimaginable act of violence, we need to work together to disarm hate.
That's right.
Standing up for the LGBT rights is like standing up for American values. It's long time past for the House GOP to allow a vote on eminently reasonable bills to help keep guns out of dangerous hands. I urge Speaker Ryan, from one speaker to another, to allow debates and votes on two existing proposals in the United States House. A measure to expand background checks and a proposal to prevent suspected terrorists from purchasing firearms. If you're too dangerous to fly, then you're probably too dangerous to buy a gun as well. But this has to happen again at the federal level. And we need the federal government to take action on other proposals so that Massachusetts laws can be even more effective than they are now. We have reached a crossroads in America. If we are to continue our legacy of greatness, we must recognize that this is an all-hands-on-deck situation. Innocent lives are destroyed on a daily basis. And mass shootings pepper the news so frequently that, quite frankly, folks, we're becoming numb to it. When I introduced our landmark gun safety bill, I said that we are not just seeking to be one of the safest states in our own country. We strive for Massachusetts to be one of the safest places in the world. And I'm truly devastated that America seems to be far away from achieving that common sense goal. Today we lift our voices and lend them to the quelling tragic tide of gun violence. Americans are demanding a vote. We won't be silent and we won't back down. I sincerely want to thank each and every one of you for being here, and more importantly, thank Congressman Clark and all the members of Congress and all of the elected officials here today, senators, representatives, attorney general, treasurer. I want to thank her in particular for her heroic efforts. And now, I am very pleased to introduce a gentleman who has become just not a leader in terms of fighting gun violence here in the city of Boston, but in terms of fighting gun violence in America as well. He is one of the people that the President of the United States will often call upon to speak throughout this country in terms of the successes that he has in Boston as he fights each and every day to stop gun violence in our city and in our state. And that is my good friend, our good friend, Mayor Marty Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I was a proud member of the House of Representatives, and proud to stand with the Speaker about 4 years ago, before the last gun bill that he passed, the bill before that, and thank you for your leadership, incredible on gun violence. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I also want to thank the Senate President for his leadership today. I want to thank all the leaders that are here today standing up for action. I want to give a shout out. There's so many organizations here, and I can't go into them all, but I want to thank Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense. And I want to thank them for being here today. And a special thank you to all the survivors. We have many survivors here with us today, and I want to thank them for being here today. I can't imagine this is an easy time for them to watch what's happening in the Congress and not happening, the inaction in for the federal government. So I truly want to thank all the survivors that are here with us today as well for standing here with us here in Massachusetts. I want to thank Congressman Kennedy, Attorney General Healey, Treasurer Goldberg, Sheriff Steve Tompkins, Commissioner Billy Evans, and all of my colleagues from the House, former colleagues from the House and the Senate that are with us, and every other elected official. Thank you. But I want to give a special thank you to Congresswoman Clark for bringing us together for this day of action. I got home from working, turned on the TV, it happened to be on CNN, and I saw Congresswoman Clark on the floor, taking over the chamber, and right next to her, Congressman Kennedy and the rest of our delegation. And I said, that's how you get things done, by shutting it down. And that night, and from that night until we get a bill passed, we need to remember, no bill, no break. I don't care if the Republican leadership didn't hear them. America certainly heard them, because I talked to mayors all across America. And what did they say? No bill, no break. I can't hear you. No bill, no break. I don't think we can hear you up front. No bill, no break. Absolutely. And I'm proud of our delegation. America wants common sense gun legislation. We just came back from Indianapolis. I was at the mayor's conference, and we were talking about this issue. And mayors from Missouri were talking about gun legislation. Mayors from New Jersey were talking about gun legislation. Mayors from California were talking about gun legislation. Mayors from Montana were talking about guns legislation. Mayors from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the north of our country to the south of our country, people are saying we want normal, good gun legislation. Why? Because of the violence that's happening on our streets. Since Orlando, we've had over 500 murders on the streets of America due to gun violence. We've had 10 Orlandos happen in 2 weeks in America. Think about that for a minute. We want to make sure that all parties across all states, across all gun owners, 85% of the people want a ban for people on the terrorism watch list. That seems like it's a Republican initiative who are blocking this. That's what surprised me with that. 90% of American people want expanded background checks. Not Democrats, not Republicans, not independents, not Green Party. 90% of Americans want that. And 100% of Americans want us to end the violence. The list that's being mentioned today, where these atrocities happen: Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, Orlando, and others, every day in our cities. We've had enough. We've had enough of stalling excuses. Americans want action. Here in Massachusetts, we know what that action looks like, but we also see it in our streets. We have a speaker and a legislature that took action. They passed a law in 2014 that made a difference. I saw the passion that the speaker spoke about that went into it. Many of my colleagues that are here probably missing roll calls. They listen to the victims and families. They listen to the gun owners. They listen to the people. The speaker and the legislature continues to be a strong partner in reducing gun violence in our communities. A snapshot here in Boston. We know what action looks like as well. The Boston Police Department and our office have taken nearly 6,000 guns off our streets since 2007. Thanks to the applause, but think about that. 6,000 guns since 2007. In the last 2 years alone, 1,900 guns off our streets. But every time we take a gun off the street, and the commissioner calls me and says, our guys got 5 guns last night, we know there's 5 other guns coming into our city. Illegal guns keep coming into our state and into our city. So we brought this conversation to cities and states together to find a way to stop illegal trafficking. We reached out to gun dealers on how to keep guns from getting into the wrong hands. We reached out to gun owners to help them follow the new laws and sales to keep their guns safe. And when we sent letters to gun owners in Massachusetts and Boston, we didn't get a pushback. We got thank you letters because people didn't understand their rights. They bought these guns not understanding their rights and obligations. In Boston and Massachusetts, we are leading the way. We have seen gun violence go down, but we still are burying too many people in our city and our state because of gun violence. This is a national crisis. We need a national solution and national support. We need action by Congress. Our delegation knows that. We don't have to talk to our delegation because they're leading the fight. That's why they took action. And that's why the entire country took notice of what they did on the floor of the United States Congress. Now, I spent a lot of time in DC and Washington talking about this, and we know that the NRA has a powerful lobby. And if that was a lobby for any other organization, they'd be being torn down by the press and other organizations, but they're not. So I want our delegation here in Massachusetts to know that we are with them 100% on common sense gun laws. We agree with them and we will stand with them on no bill, no break. We will stand with them to disarm hate. And we're going to continue to be with them until they get legislation passed. And I want to thank them. Now it's my... It's my pleasure to introduce a great member of the delegation, a leader against gun violence, a leader for access to mental health treatment, a leader who has stood up to take action, Congressman Joseph P. Kennedy III.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the introduction. Speaker, Senate President, Madam Attorney General, Treasurer, and all the elected officials here today, thank you for what you do. Thank you for the example that you helped set here in Massachusetts about what is possible nationwide. To Lynette, thank you for being with us today, the bravery you show in your son's memory. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you from somebody that was there early on last week, however big a round of applause you gave Katherine Clark, she deserves one that is much, much bigger than that. Yesterday, with the help of John Rosenthal and his organization, I met with some of our congressional colleagues with families of Massachusetts gun violence victims. Their words captured what no elected official ever could. One said, quote, "When I lost my son, I lost myself. I died that day. I have died every day since." You say the system is failing us. Reality check. There is no system for us. I cannot fly because my wing is broken. We heard from a mother who ran after an ambulance, block after block after block, trying to get to her dying son before it was too late. She crawled into a hospital bed with him for 48 hours straight at Boston Medical Center, willing God to have him wake up, only to bury him a few days later. Heard from a father who somehow found strength within himself, not just to communicate with his son's killer, but to show him mercy. We heard from mothers who attempted suicide, who struggle every day with PTSD, who have to wake up every morning, put on a brave face for their kids and their grandkids and their loved ones, who will themselves wake up every day for the rest of their lives, part of their own selves missing. These heartbroken families are the faces of our gun violence epidemic. Their pain and suffering is a direct consequence of the systemic failures that Congress has refused to address. Their loss is our country's loss. But their grief is something that they are forced to carry on their own, every day, all alone. So today, our message is simple. Their voices are ours. We stand with them, we stand for them. And I don't think there's an elected official up here who will rest until government at every level finally hears their cries. my honor and privilege to introduce our Attorney General, who has led on this issue and so many others, not just here in Massachusetts, but around the country as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Attorney General Maura Healey.
Thank you so much, Congressman Kennedy. Everybody, bend your knees. I don't want anybody passing out here, but it's a little hot. Bend your knees for a moment, because this is a day of action. This is about coming together, not just today, but every day going forward, until we have action, until we have results, until we have relief for the victims, for the survivors, and for folks like Sophia and Harrison. This is what today is all about. I am so in awe of our delegation. We are so blessed in Massachusetts with the most amazing congressional delegation. You just heard from Congressman Joe Kennedy, who's been a leader on so many fronts. We thank you for all that you do. And today we give it up to Katherine Clark. What an amazing job last week. I don't know about you, but I turned out at 1 o'clock I went to bed. That's as much as I could handle, Katherine. You guys are amazing, and you sent a signal, and more than that, you have made possible hope in people. And that's what we need to have right now. Because, folks, the fact of the matter is, this is preventable. We can fix this. This is America. We do great things. The will is there. We just need to get it through to the politicians. That's why elections matter. That's why November matters. Because elections who are not, those who want to get elected, or those who are in office, who can't recognize the moral imperative of our time, to actually stand up, take action, and do something about this issue, should not be in office. It is our job to send that signal. So I just so admire and applaud Congresswoman Clark for the action that she and her colleagues led last week in sending that signal and reminding folks that this is actually doable. I also want to acknowledge the amazing leaders here in our own Massachusetts state legislature. You heard from our terrific speaker, Bob DeLeo, on the important gun legislation that was passed a few years ago, with the help of the Senate, Stan Rosenberg and his leadership, and all of the wonderful members of our state legislature who are here today, folks. This is how you get it done. And let me tell you why that matters. It matters because we know what needs to happen. We know that we have the strongest gun laws in the country, and we know that that means results. We know what works. Why? Well, when the legislature acted to give police chiefs, local police chiefs, the ability to not let guns go into the hands of people who are a danger to themselves or others, we know what happens. We have lower gun death rates, don't we? When we know what happens when we stopped people with domestic violence convictions from owning guns. We saved lives, didn't we? Yes! When we passed a law here in Massachusetts that says no civilian can own an assault weapon, we saved lives, didn't we? Yes! So we did it here in Massachusetts, where we do so much for the first time in Massachusetts, and that is what needs to be carried across this entire country. We know how to do it. We've got the leaders with the will. You got to show everybody else the way. Are you in for that? This is about disarming hate. This is about taking it on. This is about honoring the victims and the survivors and future generations by just simply doing the right thing. And it's easy to do the right thing when doing the right thing is pretty easy. Who doesn't believe in no fly, no buy? Right? Who doesn't believe in that? Who doesn't believe in the fact that you just shouldn't be able to purchase a gun if you're on a terrorist watch list? Right? That makes no sense. If you don't get a background check done in time, does that mean the default is give the person a gun, or do you think you ought to dot your I's and cross your T's to make absolutely sure?
Right.
Don't you think we owe that to people?
Yes.
Look, a year ago, we witnessed what happened in Charleston. Earlier this year, I went down to Charleston, South Carolina. I visited that church basement where that Bible study group was held. It is both a place of worship and now a crime scene, and I saw the bullet holes in the wall. Right? And you think about the horror that was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago in Orlando, Florida, right? Right. Every day last year, folks, remember this, because this is important message points, because the NRA is powerful, and they're out there, creating this absolutely false dichotomy, this false construct. We respect, we revere the Second Amendment. It is a constitutional right. I say that to you as your Attorney General. We get that. But that is not mutually exclusive of taking common sense steps to protect the health and safety and well-being of young people and communities, right? We can actually do both. to do. So just to clarify, last year, folks, there were more mass shootings in calendar days. Every day in this country, 90 Americans are killed by guns, another 200 are injured. You know how devastating that is. You know what the impact that sends in terms of the ripples on families and neighborhoods and communities. But I want you to know, we know that there are ways to deal with this. There are ways to prevent it. It just takes the will. We've got it here in Massachusetts. Now is the time to carry that forward and take action. I'll tell you what we're doing in the office. We're leading a group of state AGs. Not everybody's with us yet, but we're working on them one by one. And we're taking the case to Congress to let the Centers for Disease Control study gun violence and trauma. Maybe that will show us ways to intervention, right? And prevention strategies. That's something that we're doing. You know, we're defending challenges to our own state laws here successfully, including the right of police chiefs to make suitability decisions, including the right to keep guns like blocks out of the hands of civilians because they don't have the necessary safety figures. We're working hard with state and local and federal partners. Police Commissioner here has done amazing work, he and his team and the mayor, in getting guns off the streets. That's what it's about too. Taking illegal guns off the streets. We're hard at work at that. But I'll tell you what, more than half of the guns that show up in crimes here in Massachusetts don't come from Massachusetts. They come from New Hampshire and Maine and Vermont and Georgia. So you better believe we need a federal solution to this issue. And we're going to continue to remind gun dealers here in the state and investigate those who don't play by the rules that they are obligated to follow the important gun laws that we have in place in this state, thanks to the great work of this legislature. You know, a couple months back, we had a basketball tournament for kids in Boston. We invited them to this anti-violence basketball tournament. At the end of it, we asked them to talk to us about violence, and specifically about gun violence. And I asked them to write me letters about what needed to happen, because I was invited to Washington to talk to leaders from around the country about what should happen. And I received many letters from these young people telling it exactly like it is, which is what young people, only young people it seems, are capable of doing. Tyrone wrote to me and said, let's come together for more than just funerals. That's what this is about, folks, right? That's why we have Moms Demand Action. That's why we marched in the Peaks March a couple weeks ago. That's why we have the wonderful organizations like Massachusetts Coalition to Prevent Gun Violence, Mothers for Justice and Equality. We could go on and on and on. But together, united, in solidarity, in unity, with leaders and legislators and members of the public, reminding people that this is doable, this is in our hands, it's up to us to disarm hate, get after it today, this day of action, and every day forward until this gets done. I will be with you in the fight. Thank you all for all that you have done, and more importantly, for what you are going to do. We can end this, we can change this. And now at this time, it is my honor to call to the podium a wonderful leader on addressing so many issues of violence and trauma in our communities, a terrific partner to our office and to so many of us here, Sheriff Steve Tompkins.
So do we have America's greatest Attorney General? In just a moment, I will be bringing the person responsible for this critically important and timely assembly up to the podium. But first, I'd like to speak to you about common sense. Here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we have some of the strictest gun laws anywhere in the nation.